Good morning, everyone. Welcome into our Saturday morning coaches show. I'm Don Julian, and I just saw Coach Greg Owens drive up in the parking lot. He'll be in here in just a minute. He probably knows that I have to trot through some other sports that we're talking about, and then we'll get into the football conversation. It was a Greenville win at home last night against the Wildcats and put them in the playoffs, and Wildcats are going to have to wait till next year, as some of the famous teams have said over the years. Still a couple of games though to play, and we'll talk about all the schedule and all that and who's coming up. I believe it's Crandall. I'm fairly certain of that. And here comes Coach Owens right now, and we'll talk about that with him. We'll just start off with volleyball. That's a good place to start. Awfully proud of the Lady Cats volleyball team as they won the district championship last night, defeating Longview, a game they had to have, or they might have fallen into a tie, and they actually lost the first set. I know that had to make Coach Dorner a little anxious, but then they took care of business and won the next three, and they win the district championship with a 3-1 score. Ended up 10-2 in district play. And a little side note to that game, earlier in the week, Sadie Washburn had signed a letter of intent to play volleyball at Dallas Baptist, and last night she recorded her 1,000th kill in her career, which is 3 years in the making, and went well over it. I thought she only needed about 3, and I think she had 24 kills in last night's game. By district will be against Tyler. We used to know him as John Tyler, and that'll be at Grand Saline coming up on Friday. And unless Coach Owens can give us an update, Coach Dorner told me time to be determined. So we will check in on that. And also, we're going to be doing our first basketball game today with Clark Zippoletta's team. That'll be in the home gym, a home game for us, and they'll be playing Tyler Legacy. You may remember them as Tyler Lee. So change of names for the high schools there in Tyler, but it will be Tyler Legacy, and that'll be a 4 o'clock start, main gym at Sulphur Springs High School. And KSST will also be doing a Tuesday game as North Lamar will be coming to town. That'll be 7 o'clock on Tuesday. And then next Friday, the Wildcats will hit the road and go to McKinney-Boyd for a 7:30 game. Jeremy Josie, I believe, is still coaching there, Clark's former boss, coach of the Wildcats. Usually see him several times during tournament season with McKinney-Boyd. Lady Cats basketball, they're quarantined, and for a couple of weeks. Their Paris game was supposed to be played this week on Tuesday, I believe it was, and that game, or might be Monday. Anyway, it was the 16th, and that game has been canceled. And the only, according to Coach Tisdale, she said they would probably be off through Thanksgiving. They do have a couple of games Thanksgiving week, Monday and Tuesday, but sounds like those may go by the wayside too, but I haven't heard anything officially on those.
The plans on girls are to play 23rd and 24th.
Oh, okay.
We're planning on doing that. Just depends on after the quarantine's over.
Yeah, I had inquired, but I had not heard back. So that's good to know. But everything canceled through there, and she's still got several starters on that volleyball team that's doing real well. So it may be a while, but until she gets those girls back. And so good volleyball news, Coach.
Yep.
Get the job done last night.
Yeah, really good job. You know, they stumped their toe earlier in the week and kind of put themselves in a bind, and we started talking about, well, what ifs if we don't take care of business and defeat Longview, then we got to have a playoff against Texas High for the seeding thing in the district championship. So thank goodness they took care of business on that. Congratulations to her, and it's another great accomplishment. So wishing those girls the very best. So it's they're kind of getting their feet back under them again, and here we go. So maybe they're refocused, and they'll make a deep run here in the playoffs. That's our hope. So I'm going to jump back to cross country. Cross country had a really good year and ran at the regional meet. It was an exceptionally hot day because of all the COVID stuff. They've separated. Usually you run in the mornings, but they separated all the classifications, and we had to run after lunch, and exceptionally warm day. So pretty hard on our kids and everybody's kids. There was a runner from Frisco, one of the elite runners, couldn't even finish the race because overheated. And so it just started cramping up. So it was a tough deal for a lot of kiddos. So, but proud of our kids, our girls. I think it's the first time we ever won a district championship in cross country, and looking for the future of those is really exciting. There's a lot of young kiddos, so they're doing a great job there. You talked about volleyball, boys basketball. Just we're getting some calls about tickets, just so everybody knows that all high school events, all athletics are online. So you go online. If you'll click on SSISD. There's a ticket icon on the home page. Click on that and then figure out what sport you want to go to, and it'll navigate you kind of through that. You just go to the game of the week or whatever. So what we've done is make the tickets hot or ready, available on the week of. So if the game is highlighted, then you can see that these tickets are available for you to go purchase. So we have limited seating in our gym. We don't have one of the biggest gyms around, so it's pretty limited, and we're trying to stay within the regulations. We ask that you wear a mask and you distance, and we have all that kind of stuff set up, but you will need to purchase a ticket. You can't come up. There's no passes, anything like that. But you guys, I think, are going to also broadcast a lot of those games so they can catch that on live stream and not have to miss that. So, and I would say the same thing. Check on the schedule. If you try to go to out-of-town game, the same thing. Make sure, because every school is doing it a little bit differently. Some gyms are bigger, and so you will have that opportunity, but you need to check ahead. And usually our website will try to post their information on that game, if it's cash or if it's going to be you purchase online. So I'd be careful about that before you just make a long trip to Hallsville or Marshall and show up, and they're not going to let you in the door. So you need to do a little checking on some of that stuff before you do it. And especially at our place, you need to get your tickets. And our plan right now is to play, which today we're going to play our JV in the small gym, and then the varsity will be in the big gym. But we're also going to play, once we get into the district, our 9th and JVs will play at the middle school. All right, I don't think we're charging any admission for that. But then the high school, the varsity will play in the main gym at the high school. And again, you'll have to have a ticket, online ticket, to get that.
Yeah, I think that freshman game in the Ox gym is at 2 o'clock.
Yes, sir. It's 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock today.
Yeah, and then in the main gym at 4. And as I've traveled to these venues, they're not accommodate. I mean, they're not ready to take cash. They're just collecting tickets, and they've got somebody out there collecting tickets and usually making sure that people have masks and all that. We actually saw one of the people at one of the gyms I went to. I've gone to several. So that was in Marshall, I believe, and she actually came up there and made sure people in the stands had those masks on. Yeah. So. Well, I mean, it's not far-fetched. I mean, you see it in the NFL and in college right now that there's nobody in the stands. Yeah. So, I mean, our goal is for our kids to play. We want you parents and fans to see the kids play, but if people don't adhere to the rules, then we'll just shut the gyms down and just let the kids play. You know, I know some summer stuff, they allowed like 2 to 4 people per kid, and that was it. They got to come in. So we need our people to be diligent, take care of business, because there is a rise in it right now around the state. So, there's a concern about people packing in gyms, and not trying to be a fear monger here, but I mean, it's a reality of what's kind of happening. So we need you guys to be diligent, because our kids have worked hard and they want to play, and we want to be able to go and compete. So we got to take care of our business too. Yeah,
The basketball JV team quarantined right now, not being able to play, but they like football. They hope to get back and soon, and so continue on. But I know Clark's had a lot of injuries, and he's working through that. But he'll be feisty and coaching as best he can today against a good Tyler Legacy team. They seem to be senior laden with a lot of talent, so that'll be a good test for the Wildcats. And maybe some of the younger guys are going to be kind of highlighted with some injuries to some of his more veteran players. So we'll see how that all works out. And before we get into Greenville, we've kind of talked through the first segment here. We'll come back with a lot on the Greenville game right after this. Back here on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show, Wildcats on the road at Greenville, come up short over there. My goodness, Coach, I don't know how you could have started any better. Score on your first 2 possessions, lead 14-13 at the end of the first quarter, down only 6 at the half. Really good first half for the Wildcats.
You know, old coach told me one time, he said, you can't coach speed. He said, you either have it or you don't.
Absolutely.
Well, Greenville has it,
yes.
And they got a lot of it. And so, but we felt good about I'm a guy that never wants to take the football to start a game, really. I just don't. I like to get it the second half. You come back out, you made the adjustments. Usually your offense is kind of nervous the first 3 plays and jacked up, and quarterback's going to sail it over their head. And, it's just kind of a wasted series for me. But Duke, he took it, he deferred, so we took the football, but you couldn't ask for a better start, like you said. We took it and marched it straight down the field, punched it in. I've been telling you the last few weeks we're getting better, and we are getting better. I mean, so I go in there, before I come up here and visit with y'all, I watch the video in the morning, then I come up and I go talk to each office, and, both of them said, hey, Coach, defensive office said, Coach, we didn't play that bad. They just outran us, And then he's right. And the offensive office said, Coach, most of our guys played the best game of their year and just getting better. Yeah. So it was those things. But the speed was the factor in the ball game, and the lack of our ability to convert on 4th downs and keep a lot drives alive. And we had a couple mental mistakes and missed communications on the offensive line and ran the wrong play and put us in a bind. And so some of those little things happened there. And then obviously, if you were at the ball game or watched it on TV, I mean, they just kind of ran by us. So some of those things you can't simulate. One of our fastest kids is a freshman, Malachi Rowland. We brought him up this week with the varsity and scout team just to give us a look. We didn't hit him. We just try to get close to him, And he's a shifty little guy like their number 3. And so we try to simulate it, but you can't simulate that because that's one of the fastest kids in the state.
Yeah.
And so I mean they've got 6 skilled kids with elite speed and size. I mean, they just really are good-looking kiddos, and they made some big plays. Number 6 jumps up over top of a corner that's got a perfect deal. I mean, 10 is a big physical guy that's committed to OU. I mean, it just goes on. I mean, the quarterback's a good-looking kiddo. So it's just kind of they got a lot of weapons right there, and they did a really nice job of getting the ball to those guys and letting them make plays. And the scariest thing is when you stop 3 on one side and he reverses field on you.
Oh, my.
I mean, it's just
that's usually a loser. If
he's
you have to reverse field, that's never going to work, but he made it work.
Well, our coaches kind of said, we just don't need to rush the quarterback. We just need to be still and just let him kind of throw his play and just see what happens, and don't try to flush the guy, too, because he's an exceptional runner. So, woe is me, play the violin, all that kind of stuff. Bottom line is we just didn't make enough plays when we had some opportunities, and then they did. They made the plays last night, and congratulations to Coach Duke. He's got a good group right there, and so it'll be interesting to see them in Royce City line up and get after it.
Yeah. A couple of things. As I was looking at the stats for Greenville, I was shocked to find out that quarterback, of course, he's good with the feet as well as the throwing, but he was the 2nd leading rusher on the team behind number 3, who was, as we've talked about, really shifty and unbelievable. They had another back, though, that really just terrorized us with 2 or 3 touchdowns, and one of them 55 yards, I think. No surprise. He was listed on the scouting report, that Otagus Johnson, 21, and he had a big ball game as well. But the other thing, you talked about the receiver, the deep threat, and 22 yards to catch. Now that gets my attention.
Yeah.
So they really did have the weapons.
They do. They have the weapons. I mean, that's pretty nice. You throw it up to a skilled guy, and 10 got behind us a couple of times. It didn't make a connection on that one. But the guy that really impressed me too was number 11. Number 11 was a big kid. I mean, 6'2", 6'3". I mean, exceptional length and arms and good size. I mean, and he can run. So they had some guys and they made some plays, and then like you said, out of nowhere, like number 6 comes up over the top and grabs one on the top of us. And but anyway, those guys, they got some good guys, and they made some plays, and they didn't turn the ball over. I mean, usually we kind of win the turnover battle sometimes with Greenville. They'll put it on the ground, a snap, a here or there, but they were pretty smooth and consistent with everything they did, and took care of it. And then their offensive line did a nice job. This is not the most powerful offensive line he's had. They did a good job of just putting bodies on a body, tie you up for a little bit, and to let 3 get loose. So, they did a nice job.
Their quarterback took some plays off. I don't know. All I could figure maybe equipment problems and shoulder pads.
No, it's cramping. He was cramping. I mean, and we had the same issue. We had about 4 kids do the same thing. We preached it all week, guys. Cooler weather. You don't feel like drinking water, you better drink, because it was a little warmer out there than we anticipated. That front came in a little later, so all that stuff. But still, the energy and effort you're putting out, if you don't have water in you, you're going to be in a bind. So we had some kids in the same scenario, but his stuff was cramping.
Something that we had not seen before, this would be a pleasant thing if it kind of developed. Your special teams blocked 2 extra point kicks. I don't know if it was the same kid both times, but tell us about that.
Robbie Hanks, he has had a few games here. I mean, Robbie's the one we ran the fake field goal with last week. I mean, he just keeps figuring this thing out. He moved in because of no spring, no summer. You know, we just didn't really know much about Robbie. I mean, he just kept getting better. We got him in a position he's not really comfortable at, and that's corner, but he's learned on the run, and he's really doing an exceptional job. He's extremely coachable. He's a quick kid, and he does exactly what you ask him to do. And we've been looking for somebody to come off the edge for the PAT, and their guy was slow, and he got 2 of them the other night.
Wow!
And so he got an interception last night. You know, we said a guy came up over the top of him, and he had a great coverage on the kid. The kid made a phenomenal catch for him, but he didn't get his head down and come to the sideline and pout and check out the game. He kept battling, going back in there, and he ended up getting the pick later in the game. So, no, he's had a great year, done a great job for us. We've even started working him at receiver in practice on the other side of the ball. So, last week, I mean, he's just kind of that guy that can do a little bit of everything. You know, we've had those guys in the past before, and you know, we just kind of plug them in. It's kind of grab Robbie. Here we go. Last week, of course, Corsicana was an onside kick team, so I put him on the front line right in that spot. He recovered an onside kick for us last year. So he does a lot of the dirty jobs not everybody sees that are glamorous or whatever. He's just kind of coming to that and kind of coming to his own. He's really done a great job for us, and he's just that sixth man, if you will, that can go play and do any spot. And he's done a lot of good stuff for us. So he's having a really good last 2 games that have been really exceptional for him.
And as we look for positives, another thing I saw, Greenville tried an onside kick on us, and one of your big guys down there did a good job of wrapping up the ball and getting down on the ground.
That was Brighton Reuter. Brighton did a good job. I mean, those guys, to see them mature over the year and to be able to adjust. We talk about a lot of stuff in practice. We do all these things, and then when it happens in the game, to see them handle that and not panic, I mean, that's what you're proud of that stuff. Those guys figure it out. They can make adjustments on their own. They're seeing things. They're learning the game. They're studying. They're paying attention. They had 2 kickers last night. 69 was the toe puncher guy. And number 80 was the guy that came in, and they recognized it immediately. When 80 came in, they were ready for the onside. They didn't run off. So it's good to see those guys mature and do those kind of things.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. The deep guys on the kickoff for Greenville, when I say deep, they were at the 20-yard line. And Tavera several times just booted it right over their head, and so you kind of effectively get around number 3, who's back there to return it as he did.
We have 9 zones we kick into, and we just kind of call those where they are, and so it's good for our whole kickoff team to be able to adjust to that and do it on the fly. Because usually I send them out there and it's a check with me on the sideline. Me and Kurt McCain are talking where you want to go. Well, let's go to this one. So we call it from that point, and they make it happen. So it's nice to have a guy. When they're worried about the short stuff, they can kick it over their head and get it out of the end zone. And Josh is developing into that guy.
Yeah.
There was a college coach there, and he came up to me at halftime and said, "Hey, who's the kicker, man? He kicked that one." So he's getting some folks out there recognizing it.
Good.
He has a strong leg. It's just being consistent with it now, in and out, week in and week out.
Last year, of course, the thing was you had those 2 kickers, and you never knew which guy was going to kick. You kind of pull that out of the bag. You had a second guy there that got several kickoffs.
Bryant Sanchez is a soccer player for us and plays receiver and plays corner, and he can kick too. So we did a little bit of that for him, but there's some special rules in that. So you see him up there on an even. If you step behind the line, you declare yourself as a kicker. So we try to leave them both at the 35, so you never know which one's going to kick. But Josh feels more comfortable sometimes backing up, especially when he's going to go deep with it.
Yeah, he is a tremendous asset with a very strong leg. He's already tied the length of a field goal, 47 yards. Several players in the record book for that one, and he equaled that, I guess, in the very first game, back to Wakeland game. Let's take our second internal break. More on Greenville, and we'll talk about Crandall. I believe they're Pirates. I'm going to have to do some research on them, but we'll talk about that when we come back. And back here on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show, Wildcats pick up a loss last night in Greenville. Always a tough rivalry game with the Greenville Lions, and they got the best of it last night. And one of the things we talked about the good start, and a big part of that, I think the Wildcats had something like 250 yards in yardage or something at halftime. And a great deal of that was on the ground, the ground attack, all your running backs. And I thought the O-line was really doing a great job of opening holes for those guys.
Yeah, our three seniors up there had a great night. They really did. Raiden at center did a great job. McCormick, Sumjai did a great job at tackle. Fredo Ovide, he did a great job at guard. They were really exceptional and just did a great job of creating holes. And Caden Davis ran exceptionally hard.
Yeah.
I mean, he got out over his toes one time. He was fixing to break another one, I think, and he got out over his toes and he stumbled. And I could just turn and smile because he tries so hard and he gets after it and does so much. But he had a really good night of running too. And sophomore Sean Dow at the tackle had a really good night.
He's really coming on.
That was his best ball game. Yeah. And even I mean, they just did really good. I mean, they really did. And Wallace at quarterback, I thought he had a really good night. Not an exceptional night passing. We dropped some balls for him, but he did a really good job too. Part of him was the run game with him last night too. So last 2 weeks, he's been a big part of that when they're overplaying Caden. The other Caden, Wallace now, he gets to go out the back door. And we had a quarterback draw set up for him too. There was a lot of big yards.
Very effective.
It got us a lot of first downs. So they coaches found that this week and said, hey, we need to put this in. And he's improved as a runner of getting downhill and go north and south and really getting after it. So, proud of those guys and what they're doing, the way they move the ball and just kind of moving it down the field. CJ had a good night catching the ball in the slot position. He's been fighting some bad shin splints all week, and he just kind of pushing through those things. But he had a big night too, getting some stuff down the field. So it was just too little, too late, somewhat, and it couldn't quite overcome some of the obstacles we had there. But they kept battling, and it was a track meet, kind of back and forth. Okay, who's going to stop who's going to have the first stop, and then all of a sudden we get them stopped on a 3 and out. I think here's our opportunity to go in. Then we stumped our toe there a little bit, and we had to punt back to them. And so we both did that a few times, and they got loose again. And so we kind of going at half, just down just a little bit. And but again, kids kept playing, and it's just one of those deals.
Yeah, a couple more observations I had. First of all, I don't know if you've seen many stats, but unofficially, what we had up in the press box, we had Caden Davis with 140 rushing yards and like 32 carries. He was really a workhorse.
Yeah, I don't know the stats yet. Our coaches get them this morning, so I haven't seen any of that stuff. But no, he had a really good night. I mean, our zone game, our middle zone worked well, and that's just really what we were really working a lot with that right there. So it worked bodies on bodies, just getting up in there, and he did a good job of finding those creases. And Greenville always does a tough job on us. They do a really good job of junking it up a little bit. So we had some success the first two. Then they started changing and making some changes and crossing face and shifting right before, stemming a little bit right before we snap once we got those two drives by. So our guys had to adjust on the run, and that's what we're proud of too. Yep. Their ability to do that. Now they've seen enough games that, okay, this is not that big of a deal, and they didn't panic. So besides just a few busts on calls, I think we had about 2 or 3 on O-line where they just went the wrong way or somebody missed something. But other than that, it was really a pretty clean night for those guys.
Yeah. And one thing, watching several times here in the game, as Wallace would roll out of the pocket and he would see a receiver and just put that nice little touch on the ball, and I had to kind of smile because I remember when I first saw Wallace, everything he threw would go through a brick wall. I mean, he was throwing a 7-yard pattern, and he would burn it in there. Yeah. And I was hoping he wouldn't break fingers or whatever. But he's really, Coach Metter, I guess, really working with him on the touch, and it was very nice to see. One time he left it like that, and he almost got it picked.
Well, that one got picked at North Forney when he tried to do that little alley-oop little deal, and he did it again last night, but they didn't get it. But I know the exact call because I had the same exact thought as I watched the video this morning. Yeah. It was a ball to CJ on the bootleg, and CJ just kind of stopped, and he gave him a nice little touch one instead of trying to knock him down. So you're right. He's figuring those things out. He's figuring out finding a little touch, making it an easy catch. The guy's wide open. You don't have to rip it every time. So he's figuring those things out, and he continues to get better as a quarterback.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the Greenville offense, and obviously that's the side they had more returners and lots of experience. Coach Duke admitted he had to fill a lot of holes on defense. Of course, he had like a D lineman that was all district, I think, as a sophomore, so that kid was back. But I thought the player that impressed me the most was that cornerback that they had, number 8. He was terribly hard to shake. and got an interception down on the goal line on a long pass, and he was just very good as advertised in their defense.
Yeah, it was. They did a good job. I mean, there were some young, inexperienced guys over there, and we tried to pick on some of them, and they just kind of held up. They just kept making plays. They always do a good job of getting off blocks and making tackles. They're really good tacklers. And sometimes you've got them out leveraged, but they fight through some of those things, and that's what they did last night. But the guy did. We thought we had the long ball on the throwback, post back, and he just went up and took it from us again in the end zone. It was a good ball. I mean, it was there, ball going to Mitchell, but he out-athleted us in the end zone.
Yeah, and there was one time where I thought I was ready for the guy to catch the ball, and he just sticks the hand in and kind of knocks it down.
Mm-hmm.
Good recovery time because he was beat, but that's that's the sign of a good one that can recover like
well,
that.
That wasn't even his man. He just had savvy enough to see. We thought we had a seam two right there going to CJ. Pretty ball, and he broke off at the corner and just came over and saw it and did touch it away because we were expecting a big play. We thought that was a home run ball for us right there as well. So he made an exceptional play on that. So again, I go back to they made the plays when they had to make the plays, and we just couldn't quite finish some of them off.
Yeah, some people wonder, they're around the third quarter or something, we just quit punting because, I mean, you're down by 21 or something, you punt the ball away, you're not going to catch up.
Yeah.
And I understand. I mean, it's really, that's the only way you're going to win. You've got to just four down territory all the time.
I mean, we're having a hard time stopping them. I mean, three especially. So hey, you got to take it when you got it. You got to take advantage of it, and you got to try to score. And sometimes you're going to give them a short field if you don't get it, and that's just the way that falls too.
Yeah, they came really juiced out of halftime, and they take the ball and go right down the field, and for 2 or 3 drives there, they were very, very hard, almost impossible to stop.
Yeah.
And that was really, they score like 20 unanswered points or something, and that, there's the ball game right there.
Yes, sir.
Very good. Let's talk about Crandall. We promised we'd do that. We'll do that in the next break and be back with more right after this. And back here on the Saturday Morning Coaches Show, and next for the Wildcats, Crandall, a new team to our district, as they got too big for 4A, come up to 5A. Coach, at Lindale or anywhere, did you ever play Crandall?
Oh yeah. Randy Barnes, who's over at Emory Raines right now, was the coach there. We used to play them a lot. They were really good back in the day, and we used to play Randy when I was a head coach at Lindale. We preseason games, we faced off quite a few times. So yeah, I'm familiar with Crandall. Again, everybody's gone, everybody's changed places and all that stuff. But I've lost Kyle's last name right now, but their head coach is Kyle something. And but anyway, he was the offensive coordinator over at McKinney North.
Oh, okay.
And so he's a new head coach and AD there, and so it's his first year as a head coach and first year as an AD, and taking over that program. Those guys they're really young right now. They've got a lot of. We studied them, and I haven't looked at them lately, but we studied them way back when we were going to play before we had a quarantine, and they had a lot of sophomores up. They've got a really exceptional athlete and one sophomore that's really, really good. A slot tailback kind of guy, good-looking kid, 6'1", 6'2", can fly, and but they've got a lot of others around him. So he's trying to get that thing going and getting everything. So he's kind of a reboot, if you will, like Sam Harrell when he got to Ennis, and he had all those sophomores up. Well, that's kind of how they are. So it'll be interesting to see how they're playing. But just so everybody knows, you're saying, well, the playoff deal's already over. Yeah, well, it could be over. It may not be over. This is still an important game because if one of the top 4 teams gets quarantined, then the next place team will take their place and go into the playoffs.
Wow.
So it's still a big ball game. It all depends on these rules that we're going through are all just kind of, you never know what's going to happen. And so it's still a big ball game right here. So cool. So the winner of us and Crandall. So we just got out of zone play. So now what's fixing to happen in the zone? So the top 2 teams in each zone are going to play. So in our zone, the top team is North Forney. In the other zone, it's Ennis. So they'll play for first and second in our district seeding. Third place, because Greenville beat us last night, or second place in our zone is Greenville. All right, second place in the other zone is Roy City. So they'll play for third and fourth seeding. And so then the bottom 4 of us that didn't make it, all right, we'll play each other, but that's still for some rank. Again, you kind of fall down. So if something happens the last week before the playoffs and somebody goes down to quarantine, then the next team's going to get pulled up. So we've got 2 more ball games to play, and, encouraging our kids to get out here and get to work and play their tail off, and because it still can mean something. And I know it means something to these seniors because they have an opportunity to still continue to play. So, but to your original question now, Crandall, don't know a whole lot about them. Just know they're pretty athletic. I know they had a shootout with Forney, 57-54, so they can put some points up. So we've got to get focused, get ready for that, and we'll start breaking that film down this afternoon and kind of see what we got to slow down. I know number 7, I believe he's number 7, is really an exceptional player, and they got some shifty guys. So we've got to get ready to play those guys.
As I go back in my memory, I don't believe the Wildcats have played them since you've been head coach in your 15th year now. So.
No, they've been a 4A or a previous 3A and that kind of stuff. So really what happened this last year, Kaufman goes down, they come up, Terrell goes down. So all those schools are kind of just, and we're not too far off. We're less than 100 kids away from being a big 4A ourselves. So
Absolutely.
We're all in that same boat. Lindale just went down this year. They're in the same boat. So all of us are sitting here around, 1,100, 1,200 kids. You never know. I mean, the next realignment, because we're building schools, and schools are only getting bigger in the Metroplex, so those numbers just bump which our school's not really changing in numbers. They just keep bumping them down. So you never know what's going to happen. But those guys over there are just getting bigger and bigger.
You kind of figure you've got it. I thought I had it all figured out, but in this age of virus, that changes everything. You just said, what if we sure don't wish it on anybody, but what, if an outbreak at one of those schools, and if you beat Crandall, you say, here we are.
Yeah.
The next best option.
I mean, Ennis is just running the table on everybody, it looks like. I mean, they could get closed down the last week, and then they're out for 2 weeks, and they're out of the playoffs. So, and there were 10 to 12 schools this last year in classifications 1 through 4 that were quarantined and had to forfeit their games, or the runner-up got to go in their place. So,
well, the Cumbia Trojans found that out. Their season ended with a COVID cancellation.
Yeah.
That, of course, they were scheduled to play Mart, which is a really, really tough draw, but at least they had the opportunity until, the virus intercedes, and there's your season gone.
Sure. So you don't know. You keep playing. It's kind of what we tell our kids, how you play the next play. You line up the next day. You don't know what tomorrow's going to hold, so do all you can do right now and prepare yourself.
And I know you're the same way. I was talking to Coach Cipolletta, and he said, you know what? I think we're having practice this afternoon, and I'm real glad we are. And he was very grateful, that they at least have a game on the schedule. Hopefully they'll get it in. But that's kind of the way you look at it. Hey, like you were this summer. Here's this date, here's this date, here's the start of this, here's,
We're all living, everybody's living day to day right now. I mean, that's just where we are. What I'm trying to tell these guys, these kids, hey, enjoy the moment. You signed up, you love playing this game, then play the game, because you may not get to play again. So enjoy playing the game, and we're all on this emotional roller coaster of quarantine, not quarantine, what's going on in the world, and we can't lose perspective of what we're still doing here and why we're here and the purpose for the day and all those things. And so that's what we keep reminding ourselves as coaches and teachers and administrators and all that. And then these kiddos is giving them the best experience we possibly can and letting them enjoy this. So that's our message, is just keep getting after them, keep having fun, keep playing. Because, again, you don't know what's fixing to happen.
Absolutely.
This little COVID and quarantine stuff kind of started East Texas, and it worked its way to the Metroplex. Now the Metroplex all the way through, they're kind of dealing with that more than like we were. So you don't know what's going to happen.
Incredible. 100 football games in the Metroplex canceled this past Friday.
Wow.
Or, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whatever, whenever they were scheduled. That is just unbelievable.
Yes, sir.
But that's a lot of forfeits and, and this and that. And all we have to do is go back to March. One day I'm watching Hammock's baseball team, and the next day Mike Lamb says, we're done.
Yeah.
And
you're watching the hummingbirds on your back porch then for 3 or 4
couple
months.
And, there's soccer players that were looking forward to playoffs. There was baseball and softball players. Their season, boom, just gone like that.
Yeah.
And seniors that were going to graduate that had to graduate.
Hey, this is too negative. You got to move on.
We don't.
We haven't been through all that, man.
Dark
Let's go.
history, yeah. Okay. And so let's go back. We're grateful that we can at least talk about a Crandall game coming up on Friday as of right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Coach, appreciate your time. And I know you guys are going to work hard to play a team that we'll all be much more familiar with by the time Friday rolls around. And Be my first trip to Crandall. I've never been there before, so I'm looking forward to that. And we thank everyone out there that joins us either by radio or television on this Saturday morning. Coach Owens here, and I'm Don Julian. Thank you so much for joining us, and so long, everybody.